Commissioner, could you lead us in the pledge?
Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Board announcements. What exactly is that? Board announcements. Okay, department announcements. Oh, thank you. No pay raise coming with that, though, right now. Well, you can give it to Louis. Okay. You could use it, right? Okay, department announcements? And we can put some of those to last anyway, right? Okay, we're going to open a public comment period right now for anything that is not on the agenda, but we are going to have Mr. Coates come up first for an update with more time. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, thank you. This is the Southside Road MOU study update that we give on a monthly basis to the Commission. We will take you through some slides. I've also handed out to you this evening a draft matrix analysis. This is for your use to see, yes sir, to see what we're doing in this process. This takes all the general plan policies and goals that developed with respect to a project, looking how that project conforms to that, and making sure that it conforms to the regional plan that we're looking for in the MOU and how to incorporate those. And so we took the project, which is the Lumpa Bates project, which is the project off of Southside Road that is used to be called Scenic Southside Estates. Now it's called the Bluffs, and it's down just before you get to the elementary school down the Southside School. So what I can do is take you through this, and then I'll explain. This, we won't be going over in detail every point of these. This is just to give you a sample. I've given it to staff. It's still in draft form. Staff and we are working together to make sure it's consistent with their goals as well. So let's see if I can work this thing correctly. This, what we have up here now, this is the your bicycle and facilities plan that is in the general plan. And the reason I bring this up is that on Fairview Road, coming down onto Highway 25, is a Class 2 bike path lane that comes down. And you can see it by kind of an orange dot that occurs on that area. Then past 25, you'll see the dots get a little bit bigger. Those are our dots in the sense that on that plan, it did not call for anything going through the Ridgemark area, a bicycle plan, or any kind of an access that would go over and eventually hit up to the River Parkway plan that goes down parallel with Southside Road. So one of the things that we've been doing, as you know, as part of our planning for the Southside Road MOU is trying to ensure that there is a linkage between the major paths and the projects, so that we might have this great path coming down the river, but no way to get down to it or no access points which are non-vehicular to the area. So it's pedestrian and bikeway. So I'm not sure quite how, is there a way to get that further up on the screen, Michael? This guy, so you can see down here. Oh, very good. Thank you very much. That gives you, this is then the next section, and you can see the concept is to take this through, and that little circle in the middle that's kind of a beigey colored circle, that is the Lumpa Bates project site. So you can see that what we're trying to do is initiate on that site a pathway system, a bike and a pedestrian pathway that'll come down to Southside. It can then eventually go over to the River Parkway, which is in the dotted green. Also, it will provide pedestrian and bike access to Southside Road, or Southside School, excuse me. So the intent is to be able to have folks, if they wanted to go that lived in Ridgemark, they could go through and provide direct access down to the school site that would be non-vehicular. The next, let's see if this will go. How did you do that, Michael?
So we're just going to use that mouse here.
Ah, thank you. Very good. This is a regional map of the area, and this shows you Highway 25
It also shows you the project site, which is outlined in red, the project boundary, and the dashed black line that shows you what is being proposed on the Lumpa Bates site. And then also we've been working with the Mr. Wynn of Ridgemark, and then we'll be appearing before the Ridgemark Homeowners Association with looking at providing a bike path through there that would be a private bike path for the folks that live in Ridgemark to be able to access Southside Road and the park area. Knowing me, oh, I see, here we go. Right there. Yeah, very good, thank you. All right, this is the current preliminary, the actual application that is before the county that's going through its environmental review. So you have not seen it. It's not been approved by staff. It's merely going through the evaluation process with Mr. Bates. And you can see Ridgemark Drive is up at the very top part of the map where there's a roundabout proposed. Street A comes into a little park site, and then there's a loop system of streets that comes out with, at the very bottom, you'll see a cul-de-sac, and down through the lump of land, there is a road that goes down. That road is out there today. That's that existing fairly steep fire trail path, the ranch road that's out there. So that's out there. It would be improved to a bit so it could provide for pedestrian. You're not going to really want to do a lot of bike riding on that. It's a little too steep, both up and down. But to walk down would be acceptable. So this was the plan that was submitted. We then took the plan, and working with Mr. Bates, this is strictly draft, but then we started looking at different things with respect to the matrix system. The matrix system's called for more active recreational area. So we're looking at increasing that park area as you come in, so it goes street to street, so you're not surrounding it with houses. So it would have more of a recreational, active recreational area. That's additional park area. And you'll notice the dashed line, the black dashed line. That black dashed line, again, would be a Class 2 bike path, which would be striped on the road to take it through, take it all the way down, and go all the way to Southside Road. We also have an easement that is there today that has a sewer easement, water easement, that goes over to Helen Court. So we would look also then at putting in the ability to have an access there as well, coming through. Yes, sir.
This is a public comment. Can we ask questions of public comment, legal counsel?
You can ask clarifying questions, but if we're going to get into too much definition, that's
Well, we can move this into the implementation of the general plan. So we've got to back up and move on item 6 if we have to on this. But clarification. So
Yes,
you
sir.
have, this is a privatized area.
Yes, sir, it is.
It's going to stay within the gate.
Yes,
You're going to add a park, but it's a private park.
that's correct.
So you guys are okay with still adding in lieu fees for public parks?
Yes, for in lieu fees for public as well as regional.
Thank you for clarification.
Yes, sir. So from there, we have been working on, this is the other update for the group. We've been working on a bubble diagram to start to put these pieces together. And what you will see is the darker, the maroon colored, those are commercial areas that we've looked at in the area. Looked at them on major transportation areas where existing approvals are, where there could be potential for commercial service areas. And you'll see in the Ridgemark area, you'll see on Union and Southside, and you'll see down at the far end going on Highway 25 down near the Lima property towards Tres Pinos. The green circles are parks. The one that is the closest to the river, that's on the Brigantino parcel that's existing there today. The other green one, which is on Enterprise going towards 25, that's a potential open area that's more of a passive park because of the terrain and the tree area. And then the divided circle that you see, that is an area that we've looked at as a multimedia or multimodal transportation area. So park and ride, regional transportation, where if indeed shuttle or car service or transit becomes available, a facility will exist in that area to accommodate park and ride type facility. You can see it's a large circle, so we don't know whether it's going to be on one corner or the other, not meant to be site-specific, but in that general area. And adjacent to it, we'd like to put a park so that you can have a full community-type service area in that region. So those are the steps that we've taken. We're right now doing other matrix systems, and we're adding to this bubble diagram, which will expand even more, that'll come back to you with the MOU conditions. That's my presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Coates. Any other clarifying questions? No. Could you make a copy of that and provide it to each one of the commissioners, please?
Yes. The bubble diagram, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Will do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we have this, so.
Right. I will gladly do that. I'll send that to Mr. Barnes, and then we'll have it sent right to you.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
We have it on the flash drive, Gary, so we'll download it and print it for you all.
Okay, so we're still in public comment time period. Anything that you'd like to talk about that's not on the agenda tonight, you're welcome to step forward now.
John Janetto? Yes.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Commission, for letting me speak this evening. Mr. Coates, I do have a couple of, pardon?
Please state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, John Janetto. My resident is at 1177 Ridgemark Drive, and I also have a resident at 1630 Summers Drive. And one of my concerns is, in the plan that we're showing right here, looks like an excellent plan and everything, but I do want to bring to attention that when I bought my property on Summers Way, in my deed there's an article that states that the property behind my house, if the golf course should ever default or become deceased as it is today, that property is open space. And not only just open space in my area, there's plenty of open space designations throughout Ridgemark. In that article, it states that if a developer wants to come in to change the zoning from open space to R1, you go through the proper process of going through the commission, through the supervisors, and taking it to a vote of the members of our community to change that zoning from open space to R1. The other issue I have, I just want to make that a note of record. There's a lot of people that will dispute that. They're going to have to show me from 15 years back where a public hearing was held and the property was changed from open space to R1. And if they have that, that's great. But we were never notified of any hearing or anything on that. The other thing on Lompus property, I think the plan is good. I don't want to, the plan that's been set before us today for Mr. Coates is an excellent plan. I love your plan. I just think that we have to do the right thing and formalities to go through it. Now, on the Lampa project, I have really no problem with that whatsoever. But I do think that we should talk to the people that traffic's going to affect the most. I think there's 10 homes on one side of South Ridgemark as you go in on the left side of the road, and there's a few homes on the right-hand side of the road. I would say that if they're in agreement to having that additional traffic go past their homes every day, I would be 100% for it. If they, in fact, do not want the traffic to go by their home, then I would side with the homeowners. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Johnny. And rest assured, these projects come up in front of us, and it's an open forum, so anyone can speak on those projects when they're in front of us at any time, okay? So, any other speakers in the public comment period? No, then you have another card? No? Okay. We'll close public comment. We'll move on to the commission level, and we're on consent agenda. So we need actually certificate of posting the minutes, and I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, we're just approving the minutes. Is that
That's it?
item number one then is moved down to public
Let's
hearings?
move down into, public hearings.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the action minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Then we move on to public hearing, and item 1, certificate of compliance 16-92, Pebble Ridge. Mike?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Michael Kelly, Associate Planner, and I'm here to talk about Certificate of Compliance 1692, which is to recognize 2 parcels' compliance with the Subdivision Map Act to find that they are legal lots, that they could legally be sold, leased, or financed in accordance with the Subdivision Map Act and our local subdivision ordinance. The applicant, or rather representative of the applicant, has gone through much research deep into historical documents and found documents that show the origin of these 2 lots. The 2 lots were brought into existence in 1882. With the exception of a change to one of the lots that was the result of a 1948 deed, so in effect that one resulted from, or it was formed in 1948 in effect, but mostly they originate in 1882. And they both complied with the subdivision ordinance, or lack thereof, at the time. And as such, staff would recommend that the commission find that the parcels are in compliance with Subdivision Map Act, and that you approve the certificates of compliance for these 2 lots. I can answer questions if you have any questions.
Robert, any questions?
No.
I've got one. Of course.
Yeah, and as part of the motion that the commission would make, if you could please make a finding that it's also exempt from CEQA pursuant to 15261B as set forth in the staff report.
Thanks, Barbara. One question, Mike. So it looks like one of these parcels is a 39.44. So it's 40-acre zoning out there, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, but at the time that this was formed up, this was all legal and all that.
Yes.
Is there any way we can sort of kind of make this happen to be more legal? So it's a 40-acre zoning, and then they bring this back?
Under the circumstances, I would believe we couldn't, or at least the applicant would be entitled to refuse if that, I
Sure,
think.
but we can encourage them, can't we?
Encourage, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Can encourage. But it's not a conditional certificate of compliance. It's just
Yeah.
basically a matter of going back through the records and,
so what is of the day?
what the rules were of the time.
So, kind of a sticky wicket, huh? So, and here we have current law that says we can't take anything to a non-conforming in current ordinances.
Look at that issue and at least talk to the applicant about whether they'd be willing to do that.
Yeah, because we're only talking about a little bit of a move, and then it makes everything conforming, and we're not creating more issues for ourselves in the future. But, I'll run this by legal and Brent. I mean, this is, or should we just go ahead and say, fine?
Sorry, this is more a practical, a bookkeeping legal matter than a planning matter. Half an acre on a property of this size in this location is not going to make a difference. But you're right, it would make potentially a cleaner series of transactions and record for the future. I would suggest that we offer the option to the applicant.
Okay. Funny
Continue.
thing, that's what I was going to do. Is the applicant here?
I don't believe so.
Okay. But we could continue this on to next regular meeting and okay.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Hmm?
So moved. Or do you want to have the public hearing
So moved.
first?
Do we have a second to continue?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have to have the
Second.
public hearing first?
After we open it for public comment, which nobody's going to, because the applicant's not here, but, right, and then we can continue. Okay, so let's open it to the public comment for this particular item. Anyone like to speak of it? No? Okay, let's close the public comment. And now, where were we? We've got a motion, we have a second.
And that, to clarify that motion, is to continue it to September 21st at 6 p.m.
At 6 p.m., yes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, that was easy. Okay, certificate of compliance 16-94, Peter Frisetta. And this one is Mike's. A little
Yes.
closer to the mic.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Certificate of Compliance 1694, 6860 F Street in Tres Pinos, which is, as shown on the map right here, kind of a narrow lot along F Street that was the result of a subdivision in 1992, well, approved in 1992 and recorded in 1997, that took a site with 5 residences on it and put each of those residences on its own separate lot. This property was designated a remainder parcel, and the arrow points to the Bellato Road end of the property, but it fronts on F Street. It extends all the way from F Street to Bellato Road, but it has an F Street address. And so it's a remainder parcel, which is allowed, of course, with subdivisions. Minor subdivisions can have, well, I think subdivisions in general can have a remainder parcel that are not subject to the same rules as parcels 1 through 4 would have been, except that it cannot be sold, leased, or financed under the State Subdivision Map Act and our local subdivision ordinance. And there are some reasons why people choose to do that. And in this case, the applicant is opting to be allowed to make this a lot that could be sold, leased, or financed. And in order to do that, that requires a conditional certificate of compliance. It's unlike the previous item, which was not a conditional certificate of compliance. This one is such that conditions would be required in order to make this recognized as compliant with the subdivision law. And so that's what's proposed here. There are conditions in the staff report, and one of the conditions in the staff report refers to conditions from the 1992 subdivision, because under this circumstance, the conditions from the 1992 subdivision would be the ones that were, well, the state law says that in order to bring the lot into compliance with subdivision law, it will need to be subject to the same requirements as, in effect, the subdivision from 1992. And those conditions from 1992 are found in the staff report if you'd like to review those. And the most substantial one of those is the improvement, the road dedication and improvement arrangement that was part of the subdivision at the time. It was deferred improvements that were allowed at that time, possibly because it was already built with 5 houses, and it was unclear from the records what exactly the reason was, but that's what was allowed at the time. And under the, well, from what I can read in the records, and I put the condition in the staff report to this effect, I believe you could continue to allow that deferred improvement arrangement to remain. What originally was proposed, or what was approved at the time, is that basically Tres Pinos would have to go through a lot of change before improvements would be allowed. 25% of the frontage of all the street frontage in Tres Pinos would have to have sidewalk, curbed, and gutter before this subdivision would be required to go through those improvements, unless the applicant otherwise chose, unless the applicant agreed otherwise. So that satisfied the improvement requirement at the time, and you can, the staff report recommends that you continue with that, although you have it as an option to change that if you wish. But anyway, staff recommends approval of the conditional certificate of compliance, subject to the findings in the staff report, including the CEQA findings, which make reference to the 1992 environmental review, because conditions have not changed to such a substantial degree that a new environmental review would be required, especially since, well, really no physical change has occurred or will occur as part of this that hasn't already been reviewed by the environmental review at that time. And the surroundings have not changed to a substantial amount either.
You got that map on your computer?
Yeah, I have a...
Okay. That makes a little more sense.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so there... Oops, wrong button. Wrong button again.
There you go.
I'm trying to... Okay, there's the pointer. Yeah, there's the remainder parcel with the F Street frontage over here, and it's rather narrow and long and extends down to Bellotto Road with a lot of slope over at the southwest end, and the existing house that predated the subdivision from 1992 up here.
Has there been a seismic study in this area? They've found some new fault lines out there. Are you requiring anything like that?
No.
Did we think about that?
It's possible. You can
Okay.
make that recommendation.
So Regan Alley is your access on,
No, the access would be up front along F Street. Regan Alley has been abandoned, and it's just been absorbed into the neighboring parcels.
each one of the houses are on separate meters?
I'm not familiar with the meters.
I think we should be, because Sam, we've already been in here and had another subdivision was taken down because no water would be allowed.
Oh, you're talking. Oh, well. Well, the Tres Pinos Water District gave comment to say that this does have its own water supply. It's a built lot. It has its own water supply and sewer access. So it's a built lot. Pretty much approving this conditional certificate of compliance would not make any physical change to the property. It would just pretty much remain as it is, other than the fact that it would be allowed to be sold, leased, or financed under the State Subdivision Map Act.
Mr. Chairman, if there were a building proposed for that property, or, well, yeah, at the time of the building permit, we would require a geologic investigation for footings and so on. So I think we're protected in that regard.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. And then water, they're not going to build because there's no water access. So I'm kind of wondering, the split must be either done for family separation or for convenience, or and I didn't see the comments from Sunny Salt Water. Did I miss them?
Oh, well, I have the Tres Pinos. It's a Tres Pinos Water District,
I'm
and I have
sorry.
the comments in the file here if you'd like to view them.
Okay.
They came in kind of late, and
Okay, next time include, okay?
oh, sure.
Okay.
They came in after the staff report was. I got verbal comments prior to that, but when the staff report was printed,
Okay, is the applicant here?
representative of the applicant.
We would like to make one change to condition approval number 5. It's just adding a couple words so that the sentence would read, all conditions of approval for minor subdivision 1046-92 shall remain in effect. And the words that are added will be, and shall apply to this parcel, with the following clarifications. So I'm just adding the words, and shall apply to this parcel.
Thank you, Barbara. You're always such a help. Could we speak to the applicant's designated
Hi, I'm Ann Hall from San Benito Engineering, here on behalf of the applicant.
Hi, Ann. How
Hello,
you doing?
Ray.
So, reason for the split at this time?
The property's already split. Just to clarify, just to build on what Michael said, the property was split several years ago, and that's the conditions he's referring to.
Mm-hmm.
It was just split as 4 lots and a remainder, rather than as 5
Right.
pieces. So, but the remainder, when, legally a remainder has certain limitations for sale, and so they're just making that remainder piece a legal piece for sale purposes. But in terms of homes, there's going to be no change in terms of homes that are built on the other parcels. It's not creating what would appear to you from the street to be a new parcel. That parcel already exists.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any comment? Pat, any questions of Ann?
I have a question.
Or? Go ahead.
So they want to make this a legal parcel. Once you make a legal parcel, they still can't build a home because they're not giving those sewer hookups of Tres Pinos, from my understanding.
Yeah, it's already built with a residence on there right now. It would naturally be limited by whatever the current
Is
conditions
there a
are.
residence on the remaining parcel?
Yes, there is a residence there right now.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
didn't show it, so I.
yeah, it is a built lot.
Okay.
So there would be no.
No other hookups, no water. They got water hookups.
Yes, yeah. Tres Pinos Water District has confirmed that it does have water service and sewer service
In existence.
in existence, and has had it. Well, they said it has it now. Obviously, I think it would have had it for a long time.
Okay. Good.
Okay, Pat.
Yeah, given that it predated the subdivision in 1992.
You have any questions, Pat?
No.
No? Okay.
Do this one in 1992.
Yeah, I was going to say, you corporate history here.
I saw your
you know,
name in the minutes.
On curbs and gutters. Pat, just ask her, she'll tell you. So, I just have one question, would this be considered growth-inducing?
I don't think it would be considered growth-inducing because it just is the current conditions.
It's just, all we're doing is sort of certifying that it is what it is. And
It's status quo other than that it cannot be legally sold, leased, or financed at the moment.
Okay. Thank you for answering my question. We're open for public comment on this item. Any speakers? No. Seeing none, we'll close public comment, and I'm open to a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move for approval on Certificate of Compliance 16-92, subject to the finding and recommended conditions with the additional wording in item number 5, and shall apply to this parcel be added in condition number 5.
Pardon me, a correction if I make. Certificate of Compliance 1694.
Oh, excuse me, 1694.
Thank you for that. A second?
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Well, moving on. Item 3, minor subdivision 1237-16 Vallejo. Looks like Chandel is our speaker.
I am. Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners and Chair Pierce. Chandel Clark, Project Planner for the Vallejo Minor Subdivision. The Vallejo property is located at 1724 Santa Ana Road. The property is zoned rural residential and is approximately 7.45 acres in size. Primary access is off of Prater Way. The applicant is requesting a minor subdivision that will allow the creation of 4 separate parcels. These parcels will range in size from 1 acre to 3.89 acres, respectively. Access to parcels 2, 3, and 4 on your screen will be provided via an extension and dedication of Hummingbird Lane. Staff completed and circulated a mitigated negative declaration for this project. As such, mitigations were included to reduce impacts related to development on expansive soils, strong seismic shaking, and noise. Condition number 9 was also added to address potential issues relating to drainage and flooding. The project as proposed is consistent with the county's general plan and zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance, and would result in less than significant impacts upon applying mitigation. Therefore, staff is respectfully requesting that the Planning Commission approve MS 123716 in accordance with the findings and evidence attached and subject to the mitigation measures and conditions of approval as identified. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. We'll open up the commission. No? Robert?
No, no questions.
Okay, let's open it up. Public comment on this item is open at this time. Any speaker cards? No cards. No? Looks like Ann's going to speak. State your name.
Ann Hall with San Benito Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, and the applicant is also here. We appreciate the work staff put into putting together these conditions. We have no issues with the conditions as proposed, and I'm just here if you have questions for us.
Questions for, no? No. So I want to know one thing. How come we're not calling this Vallejo Drive?
Hummingbird Lane already exists across the street, so this would be an extension of it.
Here we go. Okay, good deal. Tell your mom hi for me, okay? Okay, let me see. I think we closed public comment. Thank you. Very good presentation, and I'm open to a motion.
I make a motion we approve MS 1237-16 with all the findings. Is that correct?
With CEQA findings?
The secret findings and then the conditions of approval.
Second.
Anything staff want to add? No, we're good? Okay, we have a first and we have a second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Okay, we're in item 4. Frank Pearl, location 9664 Bettable Road. Request for use permit 1240-16. You're up, Mike.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Michael Krause, Associate Planner, presenting use permit 1140-16. This is a use permit amendment for the Bettable RV Park. The applicant is requesting to increase the number of long-term occupancy RV stalls in the park currently from 100 to 150. The applicant is also requesting to add an RV storage area in a location of the property that was recently increased in area and size via lot line adjustment with the neighboring property. The storage area is proposed to contain no more than 120 storage stalls. A PV solar system is being proposed to create covered parking and to generate electricity for the RV park currently there. The applicant has indicated that all motorized vehicles will be stored outside of the floodplain and that only roadworthy recreational vehicles will be stored within an area identified as floodplain AE, and that has also been made a condition of approval. The applicant also proposes to use Arizona cypress trees for the purpose of screening the storage area and structure from Highway 101. An existing building located directly east of the project site would also work to screen direct views from Highway 101. The project site is located in the agricultural rangeland floodplain zoning district, as shown on the county's adopted zoning maps. The project site is designated rangeland, commercial regional, and the county's general plan. An initial study was prepared and circulated for the proposed project. The circulation period is from July 22nd to September 6th, 2016. Staff is requesting that the Planning Commission open the public hearing, take public comment, and continue the project to the September 21st, 2016 Planning Commission hearing, following the close of the initial study comment period. And staff is available for any questions.
Questions? No? Robert? Questions?
I just got a question. Sure. There's 164 stalls, and he just wants to make 150 long-term. Is that correct? There's
So
164 stalls, is that correct?
what they're proposing to do is change short-term occupancy stalls that are currently in existence to long-term, and also construct a storage area. I want to be clear on that. Does that answer your question or no?
No, so there's only going to be, they want 150 long-term and 14 for
Short-term.
short-term?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
Good?
good.
Okay. Still none? Okay, I have a question on landscaping. On the green barrier between the roadway, what's the size of the trees?
Good question.
We're going to put in 1 gallon trees, or we get to see something substantial so we have an immediate block here?
Yes, sir. Staff has discussed this with the applicant and the applicant's representative. While I locate that information, I will say that we researched the type of tree for growth rate, and this is a fairly quick-growing tree, and it also has a wide spread. So given the number of trees that are shown,
And what's the name of the tree?
it is an Arizona cypress.
Oh.
The number of trees would effectively block the view.
Okay.
Now, the gallon size, because we are asking that this be continued, we can adjust that gallon size. I would need to look at my conditions in order to tell you exactly what we're requiring. I believe, and maybe I can call on the applicant's engineer to help out on that. I believe it's 15 gallon. Is that correct? It's 5 gallons. Okay.
5 gallons. Okay. Thank you. That was easy, huh? And this is conforming to the general plan and all the new zoning and all of that?
Yeah, as listed in the staff report, it is in compliance with current zoning.
That's the way I read it. I just like to
newly
hear it from
adopted
the
general
experts. It makes me feel
Sure.
comfortable.
Sure.
So, okay. So let's open it up to public comment, okay, Mike? Okay. Public comment is open for item 3? No, it's item 4. Hi, Ann. You're really earning your money tonight, huh?
Ann Hall, San Benito Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, and the applicant is also here. And just to clarify, Commissioner Rodriguez, yes, there's 164 stalls, and the number of RV overnight stalls will not change. It's just right now only 100 are designated for long-term, and the remainder for short-term, and he'd like to increase the number designated for long-term. So I hope that clarifies it. Other than that, again, my only comment, I understand the meeting has to be continued. I thought there was going to be a September 7th meeting. Was there hope of an earlier meeting than September 21st? Or if there's still a possibility, could we leave it open-ended enough to go to an earlier meeting if one happens?
The next regular meeting of the commission is the 21st.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I heard about, unless you got contacts I don't have.
I know there was a special meeting that was canceled, and I thought there was a possibility of it being rescheduled before the 21st. Okay,
Yeah, I think it's going to take longer for me to do that one.
okay. That was my only question. Do you have any other questions on this project?
Yeah, the size of the trees.
I believe, and again, I don't have my paperwork with me. I believe they're 5 gallon, but we can verify that since we're coming back.
Can we
We'll
do
find
bigger?
out for sure.
Can we do bigger and put drip irrigation on them to make sure they make it and fill in? And
Oh yeah, there's drip irrigation. There's a landscape plan with all the installation details.
can we go bigger without it being too much of a burden? Can you research it because you're coming back anyway, right?
Yes, I will find out.
See, we're all happy here. Okay. Thanks, Ann. Any other speakers for this particular item? We have one. There she comes. Please state your name.
Good evening, Valerie Eglund. I live in the hills up above the park, and at night I can see the lights. Anyway, it is not intrusive, and I find that historically that park has been there since the 1800s, if I'm not mistaken, and people used to come down from San Francisco. So it's an established area that people should be able to access, and I think that giving them longer term access to that space is good. So I'm all for it.
Thank you. We'll close public hearing. We're back to the commission level. I'm open to a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we continue this matter to the September 21st meeting at 6 o'clock.
Second.
Following closing of the initial study. Okay. I got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. I guess that passes too. We'll continue it on to the next meeting. Thank you to the applicant. Oh, item 5, the Affordable Housing Ordinance.
From the June meeting of the Planning Commission, in the hopes that the commission would be able to meet with the commissions of Hollister and San Juan Bautista in a workshop session to discuss this and other issues. Unfortunately, that meeting did not happen as planned, and as you said, it is not scheduled again, perhaps until September or October. We're requesting that the commission advance the proposed ordinance so that the board may consider it. I have looks like three very minor changes to the resolution, if you would be so kind as to note these. In the last, be it further resolved.
Want me to pass out copies?
Do you have copies?
Page 2 of 3.
I'm sorry?
Page 2 of 3.
Yes, sir. Barbara will pass out copies.
Oh, we get it in print.
While we're doing that, I would note for the commission's benefit that the request for proposals for the nexus study relating to the housing impact fee is on the street as we speak. I don't recall the close date for that. It's in early September. We anticipate that we would have a study underway before the end of September and probably deliver that around the first of the year. So that would be the piece of the ordinance that is yet to be determined. All right, so back to the resolution. Page 2 of 3, the paragraph that says, be it further resolved, we would propose to add the words in the second, beginning at the end of the second line that are underlined, and its consideration of the addendum that has been prepared. the Planning Commission of the County of San Benito hereby declares its recommendation to the Board of Supervisors that the Board of Supervisors adopt the addendum and approve the revisions to ordinance number 766, and so on. Those two underlined changes. And then in the bold, passed, and adopted portion, we need to change June to August. We'd be happy to answer any questions. There have been no other changes to the ordinance. We'd be happy to discuss it further if you like.
Okay. Before we comment, you want to open up public comment first?
That's fine.
Okay. We'll open up public comment on this item. 5, affordable housing ordinance. Any speakers? Any speaker cards? You can come up to the podium and talk if you want. State your name.
Hi, Todd Deutscher. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Brent, I just wanted to ask, is there I remember the discussion of this, I remember the discussion of the nexus. Was there a defined inclusionary versus in lieu fee determining mechanism in that ordinance as drafted?
Yes, there was. I'm sorry. Yes, there was. It was in the staff report, and there's a matrix that says basically as the project gets bigger, there's a less option for the payment of the in lieu fee. That the in lieu fee applies generally to only very small projects. We'd be happy to make that available to you. I don't know that we have a copy here tonight.
Oh, no, that's okay. I just wanted to clarify, because I think there was a discussion about what other cities were doing as their percentages and stuff that was originally discussed, and I didn't know if that had made it, into a mechanism. I'll get a copy from you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Todd. Any other speakers? No, seeing done, I'll close the public comment period, and any questions by the commissioners?
I have one, Mr. Chair. At the last meeting on the, and maybe I'm not understanding it, on item number G on page 16, the impact fees, and it shows that the developer pays reduced impact fees. Is there a way that we can take some of the money that's paid in the in lieu fees and put that towards the reduced impact fees? Because I feel the impacts are there no matter what.
Right.
And if the money's going into the in lieu to begin with, can we make the impact fee accounts whole? In other words, the county's paying for it, not the developer. I think the developer should get the break. I don't have a problem with that. But the money that's going in there in lieu, can we use that to make the impact fees whole?
I don't understand that because
well, first, go ahead. First of all, there's I have to look in the ordinance, the draft ordinance. There's a title in the ordinance that refers to impact fees when it should refer to in lieu fees or vice versa, and so it's a little bit confusing, and I'll have to make that clarification. The intent is that the impact fees generally would apply to all housing, but that the in lieu fees would not be paid. For example, if you were proposing a 100% affordable project, then there's no point in paying in lieu fees. You're building in kind the entire project, as opposed to.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
That's not my question.
All right, I'm sorry.
Okay, it's and maybe this needs to be changed here, but it says.
What section,
it's on page
please?
16, item number G, and it says impact fees. Is that really supposed to be in lieu of fee? No, because you wouldn't be paying 50%.
you always have, this may not answer the question, but they always have the option, if the fee study says X, they always have an option of imposing it at a lesser amount, whether or not it's from any other source or just they want to impose a lesser amount. So they don't have to impose fees at the amount of the study. But,
okay.
But go ahead, you might know.
This is the section that I'm struggling with, and it is the words "in lieu fee" in the second line of that sentence there should read "impact fee" instead of "in lieu fee." But to answer your question, yes, we're proposing that there would be an option to pay less impact fees. However, and this is a policy decision for the commission and the board, the idea is to generate low and moderate income housing, and in effect, the county would make up the difference of its own budget in order to encourage that the housing be built.
So that the impact fees will stay whole. And the county will make that up in some other way. So my question is, the impact fees will be whole. I don't care where the money's coming from, the impact fees whole. Is that correct?
That's the intent. Now, if the commission wants to clarify that by specifying that the housing, the in lieu fee, the piggy bank for in lieu fees or some other mechanism be used to backfill specifically to meet this provision, that would be perfectly acceptable.
I really think it should be that.
Okay.
That the in lieu fees could also be used for that. I mean, they don't have to be. The board can make other decisions, but it would at least be an option.
Right. Okay. That's a great suggestion. I should also mention that the City of Hollister has led the way in proposing to recreate the shared housing programs coordinator position that used to exist with the county, and I'll be bringing that agreement with the City of Hollister to the board on the 23rd next week. So we anticipate having folks to work on this, just so you know.
Right.
Sounds like a continuation.
I'll make a note of your suggestion, and we'll make that happen, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Continue this so they can
Do you have a way to write
work
it
on it
in
and bring
here
it back.
so they can make that change right now?
It's been continued so many times. But
okay
maybe
with me.
if they're bringing somebody new on board, they should look at it and maybe they might have other suggestions.
To the fullest extent down here. The fullest
I'll
extent
take these off
feasible
here for this.
in lieu
So,
fees.
Brent,
Okay.
what I would like to do is I'd like to continue this until we get the initial plan. Okay, sounds like
Initial-
you've got some work to do on this anyway.
Initial plan for,
The initial program was as we get all the commission levels together, we discuss affordable and other elements. Yes, it's going to be it would be a continuation until after the at least the planning commissions can get together as a group and talk about this to see if we can work something better out of this, because we've got a lot of loose ends on this. We have a nexus study that really should have been done before this was thrown at us, in my mind
the
anyway.
Nexus study is, completion of the Nexus study is probably at least 6 months off.
Yeah, I know, and see, I think we really should have had that first, but I'm okay with trying to work this out a little better. I've talked to my supervisor. My supervisor basically is kind of in agreement with another commissioner that said, we should take all of the secondary units and make them, affordable and allow rent and take all the restrictions off of those. And pretty much he's also in favor of in lieu fees, just payment of in lieu fees, so we can take the money directly over into a higher density area where we can get more housing for more people and help more people. So, so I'd like to, if we're going to do this, and if we're going to work this out, and this is going to be the element, which I'm really not in favor of anyway, because we're the county, we're not the city. I'd like to make sure we get this right. And I don't want to kind of piecemeal in and try to infill later and fix problems.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
are you saying that you feel the Board of Supervisors is going to do something different than what we're looking at? And if they are, shouldn't we just, if we feel comfortable with this, pass it, send it on to the board, and let the board do?
I'm not really that comfortable with it.
Okay.
Or I'd probably be okay with just going ahead and passing it along. There's some elements within this that really kind of bother me a lot.
Okay, well, I think we should definitely get this wrapped up and get it to the board as soon as possible.
Okay.
I just really do. I think we've this thing's dragged on now for 6 months.
Been a while, yeah.
I just don't want to spend a lot of staff time rewriting and rewriting and rewriting and then never being happy. I just really hope at some time we can.
Right. And I was kind of hoping to get those other commissions with some new ideas to add into this, but is that feasible? See, and that's what you have to come to grips with. I'm okay with waiting and going ahead and doing it. I know not everyone is, and if you want to motion.
No, if you have sections that you're not comfortable with, let's talk about it and let's get it straightened out. I mean, I don't want to pass something just to pass something. That's certainly not what I'm saying. But I am saying that we need to come to some kind of decision.
Well, yeah, it's like, in the inclusionary part of this and some of the other stuff, I've got a real problem with, because I think it could actually trigger a greater EIR than what we're asking for in those areas. Because if it suddenly goes more dense, and we have an RM now, which we didn't have before, which is probably exactly where these things are going to go, you could end up with the mobile home park in a much higher density in the new zonings that we haven't fleshed out yet. So, I just think there's so many elements that could go wrong, because we're still working on the general plan and we still haven't quite worked that all out. And now we're trying to mesh something into a general plan that isn't actually fleshed out and fully implemented.
So you're talking about the zonings in the general plan?
Yeah, an RM in the general plan, and this affordable units would more than likely come right into those elements, unless we're talking in lieu fees. Then it doesn't matter. If you're paying in lieu fees and they all just go out into the pile, and they go to benefit impact fees or whatever, then it's no big deal. We can move forward. But with all the conditions, and they're writing up another board that's supposed to be involved in decision-making on this stuff and other things, we're just adding more government on top of government. No, and the other thing is the affordable housing itself. If you really look at it, affordable housing should be probably much more dense. So do we want that density in the county? Comes back to what you were speaking to of secondary units, and that should be our affordable, and making them rentable and non-restrictive and everything, and that would be a first step, and then we'd have to work on something else that basically would maybe restrict or have an overlay area that would say, okay, affordable should be in these areas, close to infrastructure, and close to the city boundary lines, things like that. But none of that's in here.
I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
It's complicated.
I know it's
I'm not even sure I understand what I'm saying.
Basically, what I'm hearing you say is that this ordinance at this time should be tabled, and we should really be making broader decisions. Is that what you're saying?
I think that I think we need to implement the general plan elements of the zonings and things that this would impact. Instead, we're doing it, cart before the horse. I think we need to know what those things are and put those restrictions down, knowing that we might have something like this coming down the pike. I'm not necessarily sure I want to table it. But depending on what we flesh out in these other areas, could make all the decision on whether or not this is going to happen at all, or if we're going to take a different tack with this.
Well, then, maybe what I'd feel most comfortable doing,
please,
is putting this on hold. I don't want staff working any more on it, spending any more time on it. Set a study session, hash this out, and then move forward. However we're going to move forward. But staff has got to have a clear picture of what we want to do before they spend any more time on it, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, agreed.
Because, I just see wheels being spun over and over again, and then we're never happy. So I think that has to stop. no matter how we decide to stop it, that has to stop.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, do a motion.
Robert, did you want to?
No, I kind of
Chairman?
agree with both of you.
You want me to motion?
Well, I think I'd like to hear from staff before we go any further.
Staff, you know.
Well, two things. There's a public hearing, so we'll need to hear from the public. It's on. I'm just leaning back. With respect, the board and the commission took several years to adopt a general plan and additional time to talk about a housing element update. We have been pressed very hard by the state of California to adopt and implement our housing element. We're implementing our housing element in part through an affordable housing ordinance. The policy decisions, in my mind, have been made. There's a lot of flexibility in both the housing element and in the affordable housing ordinance as to how those things play out on the ground in specific projects. And we're leaving that, as you've discussed over the months, we're leaving that largely to the development community as they design their projects. There are in-lieu fees, there are on- and off-site inclusions. A variety of housing styles can be proposed in different zoning districts and in locations all throughout the county. Yes, there is no RM zone at this time. It does not exist in our zoning code. Same with the CR zone that we'll talk about a little bit later. We are not, at this point, passing a CEQA level review, a project level review of any kind on any project. All of that would come with the specific project proposals, and you would have the opportunity to decide if a particular proposal, whether it's inclusionary or not, is appropriate for any particular location, whether that's in the RM zone, the R1 zone, the farm worker housing in the middle of an ag area, or whatever. Again, to my mind, the policy decisions have already been made. We can continue to loop back around and have more workshops. Again, with respect, and certainly with respect, all respect to the commissions of Hollister and San Juan, the complexity of the conversation at least doubles every time you add a party to this, because they'll all have different circumstances and different nuances that they want to bring to this equation. We'll never get one ordinance, one single program that we can implement countywide. It's just not going to happen. The board is very, very interested in this. I would again recommend that the commission send it on or vote to not send it on. Make a decision. I don't think that a continuance will help, because we'll be here in February talking about a continuance.
See, and I thought you were so optimistic before.
I am optimistic. I'm optimistic that you'll make a decision this evening.
Are you running for office?
No, sir.
I'll vote for you.
I'm running for the hills.
So, then with that said, then I would have, and one thing that concerns me in here is the Housing Advisory Committee. So, what is that body, and what decisions are they going to make?
It could be the commission, if that's the way that the board wants to do the appointments. I'm not in favor of creating more government either. And I think that you all are immensely qualified, because you understand the affordable housing issues, the housing market, and so on, to sit as that body and help implement the policies as they go on the street, as they hit the ground. But it's an oversight body that reviews at the program level how the affordable housing program is working.
Yeah. I think that's one of the bigger hangups in here. If that body was actually the planning commission or the supervisors, either one, that would probably not work for legal. But then I would feel like I would feel more comfortable with this, that it would take less time, that projects would not be held up and in a quagmire, because I'm about expediting, and I think part of this is, even though we're keep continuing this, that this could be a real mess. So if we want to change the Housing Advisory Committee to be the Planning Commission, and everyone's okay with that, I can move forward and we can work out the other problems later.
We could do that either of two ways. We could.
Well, hold on. Let's make sure everyone's okay with that.
Well, I offer you options here.
Because I just put a workload on them, and they may not want it. Okay? Are you okay with that, Pat? It's on page 14.
I was looking for it. I agree with you, Mr. Chair. When I read that about having another committee formed, I did not like that. I think it could be changed very easily to once a year, the Planning Commission sitting as the housing authority, however we want to word it, and just put that right into the ordinance. I'm fine with that.
Okay. How about you, Robert? You okay?
I'm okay with that.
I just increased your workload, dude.
That's
okay. So I'm open to a motion.
Oh, we didn't have the public yet.
Oh, I thought I opened that. Didn't I open that first?
They should take that resale exclusionary unit out.
Okay, well, we'll just read that into
That-
the time of the motion. Sure.
For sale exclusionary units, I mean, it's like you're going to be renting a house. You're really never going to own it the way the conditions are set forth.
What page are you on?
Page 12.
Page 12.
Anybody who's going to buy it, it's just, you're not really going to own the unit. There'd be no benefit. And that said, they should just build apartments and rent
So the
them out.
number of type of rental inclusionary units?
Mm-hmm. When you're going to sell the unit?
Yeah, Commissioner Rodriguez has a question about, you have rental inclusionary units, so for, affordable, who's the rental units? How are the people that are renting it ever going to have ownership on it? How does that work? Because it's a rental unit and not an ownership unit. It's on page 12, for sale inclusionary item 1.
It's intended to create a rental unit market. There are many households that either can't afford or don't want to own property at a particular time, and so this is an option to create a rental component, which we essentially don't have here in the county.
Okay, so now you confused me a little bit too. So somebody with some money can come in and buy these. They're selling them at below market, and then there's going to be guidelines on the rental being very affordable, or how does this work?
I'm sorry, maybe I missed something. I thought that this was just a straight rental building that's built and is a rental program that's...
Possibly. We're on page 12. We're on item 1 under for sale inclusionary units. The number of type of rental inclusionary units and for sale inclusionary units shall be determined for each application or approval. So basically, and we do need rentals in the county, but so if you have a rental unit, the people in there, of course, are renters. So, and they're below market, but the ownership obviously is going to be somebody that can purchase.
Might be an NGO, a non-governmental organization, a CHISPA, for example.
Okay, CHISPA or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like they have their rental units out there. So CHISPA and the NGO units, they would then be under certain guidelines to rent below market or...
Right.
Okay. And that would come with their grant funding and all the other stuff as
presumably
well.
This
okay, so there's a little bit of a backup. Okay.
Right.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, kind of. Yes.
Okay. I'm glad we got
so no, there are not going to be any units that anybody can buy, correct?
Well, there would be, certainly. The market will determine that. But
then you're going to have a lot of restrictions on the guy, or individual versus unit, so it's like, might as well just rent. You never really outright own it
No.
with some of the restrictions.
The market will determine, and maybe you should ask this question specifically of CHISPA or CSDC folks who have done this. But my understanding of the for sale market for affordable units is that they buy in at a reduced level, that there's a cap on how much, excuse me, how much the price can increase with the housing market, so that they can't make a killing and move to Laguna Beach or somewhere, but that the unit stays as an affordable unit for 25, 30 years, whatever the restriction is in the ordinance. And if that household sells out of that affordable unit, it goes back on the market as an affordable unit.
If the owner of the rental, well, no, let's keep it at CHISPA level, okay? So if it's a non-government unit, okay,
Right.
they turn around and decide to sell, that's not likely, right? They're going to continue to do the rental?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Hold on a second. I think I got somebody I can call on. Hey, Gabriel, you knew this was going to happen. Okay, so we have CHISPA here, so
Thank
we
you.
might as well utilize them and take poor Brent off the hook. So explain this for us.
Okay, so there's a couple of examples.
First, state your name.
Gabriel Torres, Vice President of Operations for CHISPA. So a couple of examples that we've typically built, and we're talking single-family homes here. We have rental single-family homes, which are overseen by CHISPA, because there are a number of families that just cannot afford to carry a loan. So we own the properties. We rent to families at various income levels. Majority of the time, we try to partner with the cities or the local jurisdictions to get folks at 30% of area median income, because those are, in many cases, tied to what used to be the redevelopment agency or successor agency funds that are still remaining in a lot of accounts. So the cities are mandated to use a lot of those funds, or else they get penalized by the state. So we have a number of projects, for example, in Greenfield, where the city of Greenfield had some redevelopment monies that were left over, but it was targeted to 30% AMI families. So we were able to rent those 2 homes out to families at that income level, utilizing some of the city's monies to augment or offset the rents and make it feasible for those families. That's one scenario. For sale units, just a general snapshot of how a for-sale affordable unit would work. Typically, we are partnering with USDA Rural Development for those loans for those families, which are between 1% and 3% interest rate. And so the family is basically signing up for a loan through USDA for the assessed value of the home. In many cases, they would need down payment assistance, so we would go to local jurisdictions for some down payment assistance monies. If at all possible, we try to avoid those because those are usually tied to additional restrictions beyond what the USDA restrictions are. But a simple snapshot of a home, for example, in Salinas, we have families who have purchased the homes for $220,000. The appraised value of that home is $300,000. So what we do is we have a resale restriction that comes from USDA and from the city of Salinas for the down payment assistance, and that's typically a 20-year resale restriction. We also have a caveat in there that allows that family to gain equity from that home, because obviously the value of that home increases year by year. So there's a shared equity note. And that equity note is basically split 50-50. So if that family decides to move out in year 2, the assessed value goes up $50,000. There will be a split 50-50. $25,000 would go to that family for that increase in value of that home. So they do have equity in the house. The other 25 would go to the CHISPA, the developer, to acquire and put into basically a housing trust fund to acquire or pay for other affordable housing units.
Okay, let me stop you there for a sec.
Sure.
You hit a note. So why aren't you keeping them as affordable for life of house? Why are you splitting the equity gain? What you've done is you just allowed a family to come in there and live at way below market, way below their regular mortgage payment.
Right. What we do is...
And you just made them a profit taker.
Well, they've actually invested in the home. Many times, like our families that have spent a number of years in their homes, we don't hardly ever see anybody moving out in 2 years. I tell you that right now.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
In many cases, they've done a number of improvements, have partnered with a lot of our other nonprofit agencies, for example, Grid Alternatives for the solar panels. So there's a lot of improvements that have been done to the home, and it's basically a way for them to recoup some of those costs that they've put into the house. They do.
Well, if they do that, but what if they don't put anything into the house at all?
We have only had I would say 200 units that we've built. There's only been a handful, maybe 4 to 5 homes where they've done nothing to the home, and that's obviously it gets reappraised. So they will look at those. Appraisers will look at all of those items if they've spent any money doing kind of investments in the homes, and that equity is split accordingly based on the appraisal. So if they do nothing to the house and it hasn't increased in value, then they go away with nothing, and we go away with nothing. But we maintain that home. We will go back to USDA, find another qualified low-income family to put in that home, and basically go through a full training process with that family, how to go from a renter to a homeowner, which is a huge jump, because then there be a lot of responsibilities, a lot of money going out the door that they need to be prepared for. That's why we stressed very highly our financial literacy classes with our families who are purchasing their first home, because it's not, let me call the maintenance man and get my water heater fixed. It's you.
And that's why I like you guys, because you do that education. And it's very, very important.
We have to. And it's
especially on first-time home buyers.
Oh, yes,
let alone lower below income.
Absolutely.
But how do we have an affordable element, an affordable unit, and keep it affordable? So now they benefited. They take away a little bit of money when they turn around and sell it to the next affordable person.
We actually work with USDA and our lenders, because we do have a note on that home. So we are in line, if you will, for we subordinate and we are ready to go. We will not subordinate to another lender, maybe who somebody's trying to take out money. So we watch that home very carefully, and if all else fails, we will buy that unit back and keep it as a rental ourselves, which we've done a number of times as well.
Yeah, and these are all done on deed restrictions anyway, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So,
and it's our goal to make sure that anything that Chispa buys stays as an affordable unit, because that's our mission statement, basically.
So if we were going to go into a rental complex or an apartment complex, how would that work for you guys? So you go, we know where our renters are coming from,
right?
But you have ownership. You get grant funding to be able to go in and buy the product, or buy the land and then build the product.
Right. Well, I'll use the example I did before. Let's say, for example, we were going to acquire a fourplex in here in Hollister, a number of them that are being sold at this point right now. We would basically acquire that fourplex, and our first meeting would be with the city or the county, and again, we're looking at the successor agency monies or the former redevelopment agency monies, because we want to, or even, the housing authority, for example, we would look at how many Section 8 vouchers we could actually apply to that to make it pencil out. We want to look at the 15-year pro forma for that particular project, because we want it to have enough money in reserves to do regular maintenance and things of that nature. So through a number of calculations, we can determine what the best income level for that particular apartment complex would be. So we would sprinkle in some 30, some 50, some 80% AMIs, and plug those numbers in a 15-year pro forma to make sure that we are coming out with a profit at the end of the day to basically put in that reserve account. So the profit doesn't necessarily go into Chispa pocket, but it goes into a reserve account, because, as you know, these buildings, they take an abuse. A lot of, depending on the size of the apartments, they could be large families, small families. So there's always maintenance going on in those types of developments.
Okay, but then you also educate those people to try to move them to be purchasers.
Eventually, yeah. We will work with them, and for example, our apartment complex here at Buena Vista, we will have financial literacy classes. We'll have other ESL other financial classes that the banks and others will oversee, and we encourage our families to be participants in those classes. It behooves them to do that, even if they maintain as a renter for their life. At least they understand other financial mechanisms or models, for example, savings plans, checking 529 college savings plans. We want to not only get the parents educated, but the children as well, that financial literacy is the key and they can make
Yeah.
their choice whether or not to be a homeowner or a renter from that point.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
And now you know why I don't want to be in the affordable housing business. I think
He
this
was-
guy's got it together
he
a
was
lot
much
better than
more-
we do.
Much more articulate than I could ever have been.
I don't know about articulate, but he knows his stuff, and his group knows his stuff. And there's a lot of other groups out there that can do this a lot better, a lot faster, and a lot easier. So that said, I'm still open to it. And we got your answer, right? Okay, so that said, I'm open to a motion still. What do you want to do? You want me to do it?
Did we open up to the public?
Oh,
Mr.
yeah,
Chairman,
let's open it up to public comment. I'm sorry.
well, while we're doing that, we've worked out the Housing Advisory Committee
Okay,
for you.
let's open it to the public first, okay?
Okay?
They might come up with something. So, public comment is open on the affordable housing ordinance. Any takers? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Okay, too late. Just kidding, just kidding. State your name.
Valerie Eglund. Listening to the conversation, I definitely agree that to create a big process is against what progress can be made. To have another committee to go through is just one more hoop for applicants who are working with affordable housing. And I think to go ahead and pass it with the authority of that it comes back to the Planning Commission for those issues to be resolved when it's necessary seems to be a reasonable plan. So I think it's a good plan.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. And staff, your turn.
Mr. Chairman, on page 14. Page 14. In 21.03.011A, number 1, the first paragraph, it talks about creation of the affordable housing, the Housing Advisory Committee. And we would propose to change that first sentence to read, and I may not get this exactly right, the Housing Advisory Committee shall be composed of members of the Planning Commission and is hereby created pursuant to this chapter for the purpose of advising the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission, although that's sort of redundant. You're advising yourselves on matters relating to the housing element of the general plan and the inclusionary housing ordinance and other such matters as the Board of Supervisors, the Planning Commission or not, or the county staff shall direct. And then subparagraph 2 would go away entirely, and subparagraph 3, adoption of bylaws, would become subparagraph 2.
Okay, can we add solely, so she'll be solely of Planning Commission
Sure.
and will run concurrent with their term?
Yes,
That
of
work?
course.
Now, it's because they're 4-year membership, right?
Mhm.
Okay. That works for everyone? Oh, good. Okay. I'm open to a motion.
Oh, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we adopt the amendment to Chapter 21.03 of Title 21 of San Bernardino County Code to move
I don't think
the...
that's correct.
Let her move it and then we'll fix it.
Moved on the affordable housing ordinance to the Board of Supervisors with the changes to the Housing Advisory Committee noted by staff, and with the change in the impact fees to allow the impact fees to be used, made whole by the collection of the in lieu fees.
And adopt the proposed resolutions for the Planning Commission with the changes that were indicated.
Yes, I've included that.
Yes. Yes, she included that. And then, do you want to change your impact fees to a in lieu fee notation thing you said somewhere? Says in lieu should say impact, and I think that's on page...
It's on page 16.
16, I believe, is the page Pat was on. Friendly amendment. Friendly amendment.
Right.
No, he doesn't take verbatim notes. Okay, so this is on page 16. You find the section. This is in 21.03.011. Oh, I'm sorry, 012, subsection E. No, subsection G.
G.
And it should read, developments that provide 100% affordable housing shall have a pro-rate reduction of impact fees as follows. Does that get to your intent?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And then we'll add the language about priority using of in lieu fees to backfill within this rate reduction.
Yes.
We'll have to wordsmith that a little bit, but
Okay.
yes?
Do you actually want to word that? Like, if we, it's helpful for the planning commission actually, but I mean, it's not a zoning specific, but do you want to try to work out that language, like how she wants to have that? I mean, I don't know whether that's actually something that...
It's more a program issue than... So we're
addressed at a future meeting, or else just brought up to the board about whether they
we could do that. We're thinking that the use of the in lieu fees to backfill these reduced impact fees is a programmatic issue rather than an ordinance issue, and we would recommend that you recommend to the board that in lieu fees be used to backfill in this case, but it does not be a part of the ordinance itself. Does that make sense?
Well, that's fine. It's
Okay.
just
So we'll
the
make
ordinance.
that recommendation on your behalf if you include that in the motion. And I'll circulate that back informally so that we make sure that we get the language right.
Okay.
And also you can review the board item if the motion passes and it moves to the board. Okay?
So we're actually changing the word, saying that the filling out the impact fees as a whole is a recommendation to the board, but not a part of the ordinance. Correct? And then all the other staff changes
That's fine.
included in the motion.
Right.
Okay, good. Now I'm open to a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Brent, you can sleep well tonight. It's just because I like you that happened. Okay, so we're down to a resolution of San Benito County Planning Commission granting the appeal of the notice of incomplete application for TSM 15-93. And this is a continuation of the public hearing last time. Now we're at Board Commission level. So anything, Brent? And explain this a little bit to me. I'm kind of confused. I thought we had approved this before, and this must be the resolution, huh?
My recollection is that we were to bring back to you. Thank you, Gabriel.
Yeah.
Bring
Thanks,
back
Gabriel.
to you the resolution memorializing the action from last time, and so that is what you're doing this evening.
Okay.
That's correct. I just made one tiny change to the resolution.
And that's cool, but why didn't we get this in the packet?
The resolution was in the packet, but I made one change today to the resolution. But the resolution should be in the packet. I thought I got it, when I went to the county website, I got it.
Oh, well, yeah, maybe on the website, but our packets don't have it. I was kind of confused. That confused me,
Sorry.
so that's okay. Things happen.
I just, from the draft that was in the on the website, even if it wasn't in your packet, there was I just combined the...
Mic on.
I just combined the points 2 and 3 and just indicated that the appeal is granted in that the application is deemed complete as of February 29, 2016, which I believe was consistent with what the Planning Commission's intent was at the last meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Barbara. So, recommendations here. We're continuing on a public hearing.
Yes. You could take public comment and then propose that we approve the resolution or adopt the resolution.
Exactly. I do have to open a public comment again, right?
Yes.
You did close the hearing, so you would have to open the hearing again and
But you still
take
get public comment.
I thought we continued this hearing, and that's why it's under hearing on the agenda.
I believe that you closed the public hearing, but you continued the item. You may reopen the public hearing and take additional testimony.
Okay.
But it was originally posted as a public hearing, so that's why it's under public hearing.
That's why we keep you guys around, because you're so helpful. We're open to public hearing. Anyone would like to speak? No? Okay, let's close the public hearing. Thanks for your participation. And I am open to a motion on the resolution. No, all we're doing is... Yeah.
If the Planning Commission could adopt the resolution memorializing its decision from the last meeting.
Yeah, but we pretty much did that last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that there was direction that a resolution be brought back. No, I
don't
just
recall
because
that.
I believe that we made the decision, but then we didn't have the formal resolution, and so we just
So now we're adopting the formal.
instructed staff
Thanks,
to bring
Pat.
back a formal resolution.
See, that's why she used to be a supervisor. Yeah, that's why we keep her around. She knows her stuff. Okay, so I'm open to a motion.
I make a motion to accept the resolution.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Now we get to
item number 7.
We get to listen to Brunt talk to us about the CR district and RM district and implementation of the general plan. You're going to bring us up to date on the whole general plan implementation, right? Just like you got your whole package, just like you did for the supervisors? We get to see it?
If I can find it. Louis assured me it's still on this computer. We'll try this one. No, that's not me. No.
Mike, schedule him for a PowerPoint class.
Not to be too hypothetical, but if I could have the Planning Commission clarify that the last motion was to adopt the resolution instead of accept it.
I thought that was pretty clear.
Okay. Well, I think that the motion was to accept. If you
And
could-
adopt.
Okay, and adopt.
Oh. Okay, we'll give you,
Adopt.
Would you clarify your motion?
To adopt and accept.
And second was okay with that? And we're consensus.
Aha.
Well, you gave it a virus.
Apparently. Okay, we'll go without the PowerPoint part of it. So there were 4 things that I had spoken with the Board of Supervisors about last week, and they were housing. We talked about most of that. In fact, we've talked about all of that this evening. The affordable housing ordinance, the housing coordinator with the city, and that was the essence of that. Help me if you think you remember something else, but I don't think there was anything else from that.
Not from
that component.
You kind of moved on to CR.
We talked about the economic development part of the general plan and the RM zone and the fact that we need to create a zone, an actual zone in the zoning code that says RM or something to that effect, residential mixed, and figure out what that zone is going to be. And I'm thinking, and it'll be up to you to discuss this when we bring it forward. I'm thinking that it'll be a series of different intensities, if you will, of RM, RM1, RM2, RM3. And so there'll be different ways of applying that in different areas of the county. But the intent of the zone itself is that it be mixed residential and mixed use, so that it includes both commercial uses and residential uses, so people can walk
like
to
neighborhood commercial.
Neighborhood commercial.
But the current zoning within the general plan states already that the intensity level would depend on the amount of infrastructure that it can provide.
Yes,
so
sir.
if you have sewer, water, and everything else, you could go like full on, like 20 units an acre or something ridiculous.
And the state required us to put into the housing element a minimum 20 units to the acre zone designation, and so this RM will be the vehicle for that. Where that applies on the ground, we don't know yet.
You've already got some designated on the ground, but it also allows mobile homes.
Yes. And so again, there's a variety of ways for this to sort of play out at various sites.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have to work through how those things apply and where it's appropriate in the county. And we'll bring both a proposal for ordinance language and some bubbles, not specific, straight lines, but some bubbles on a map that show where these things might apply. And we'll probably leave it to the development community to come and apply for an RM designation at that site.
Okay, but she's gone now, but one of your planners has already identified a site that I was asking about as an RM. So haven't we already identified?
Yeah, but I don't have a zone to put there.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we just
Yes.
flesh that out, fill it in, and it applies. But I just bumped into this by mistake. I'm kind of wondering how many other RM zones are out there throughout. And I think it is only a few spotty places
Probably
in certain
not very many.
areas.
Probably not very many. I'm guessing 6 or 8.
Okay.
It doesn't need to be a big number, because again, the as you say, the infrastructure needs to be there. All the conditions need to be right.
Yeah.
And we don't want to encourage high density nodes in very rural parts of the county, frankly. So I can't see an RM, for example, in Piscinas or Tres Pinos. Maybe somewhere in Aromas or adjacent to San Juan or a particular part of the Hollister perimeter, but we would have to look very carefully at the site conditions there.
Romas has trouble with water already.
They do. Well, so does everyone.
It almost seems like this is going to be a perimeter area again, right around the outside of the city limits, because
Could
that's
be.
where the infrastructure is. And if we're ever going to have affordable units, they're going to have to pack them into these areas.
Well, for example, I'm sorry to take the floor. An example, at the corner of Fairview, northeast corner of Fairview and Airline, there has been in the past a college campus proposed. If that college campus were to not materialize at that place, that might be a place where a higher density node of commercial and residential would be appropriate, because we know that across the street at Ridgemark, they're proposing a shopping center and a hotel and some other things. Just saying.
Okay. Let me take it to Pat and give her some time.
Brent, is there a way that we could get a list of areas that have both water, city or Sunny Slope water, plus sewer available to them? Just so I have some kind of idea of what we're actually talking about, how many places that's available.
Sure, that's a bigger conversation. One of the, to step aside just a little bit from general plan implementation, although it's directly related aside from this topic, one of the things that we need to do with both Hollister and San Juan is rationalize the municipal boundary, the municipal sphere of influence, and their planning area of interest. For example, the city of Hollister has in their general plan a requirement for a specific plan south of the Hollister city boundary and north of Union Road in our south side study area. And when we went to the city of Hollister and pointed that out to them, they kind of went, oh, really? And so there's been not much thought about that for a number of years, apparently, about how that would play out. We need to get with them, and maybe the Tri-Commission's workshop is a good place to sort of begin that conversation,
that was
at
the
least,
idea.
about what Hollister wants to be when it grows up, what San Juan wants to be, and how to make those boundaries coterminous. That doesn't get to the answer to your question, but that goes a long way. There's also another set of boundaries, for example, the Hollister Municipal Wastewater Treatment District, or words to that effect, the wastewater treatment plant service area, which is not the same as either the sphere of influence or the city boundary or the planning area for that matter. So we need to sort of figure out all of those things. The short answer is yes, we can do a map. It would be a little bit difficult right now, but
If I could just have a map or just general guidelines
Sure.
of where the sewer is available.
sure, we can.
Because that, to me, that's huge.
I can help with that. So the city has a map.
The city does have a
The
map.
city has a map, yeah, that takes in the regional, because
Right.
I've got it, if you want to look at it, I've got it at the office. It's
Okay.
like the big picture. And essentially, sewer can go anywhere within those boundaries based on the developer. Yeah, I mean, all he has to do is run lines, and it's got to be cost-effective for him. So if he wanted to go down Fairview a ways and pop up all of a sudden for no reason, it's just a dollar kind of an issue.
I assume
Pretty
there must have been a map when it went to the vote of the people.
You would think, huh?
Yeah.
I actually found that because I was just kind of looking, thinking it might be good to have one. But water, you can almost split Sunny Slope water away from city water, and I haven't quite figured this out, but I think it's somewhere down Memorial. So everything on the east side of Memorial is Sunny Slope and Sunny Slope access. So anything in Sunny Slope access pretty much is wide open. They can go over city limit lines. They're not government water. City, on the other hand, cannot,
Right.
because they're government water. They can't cross over unless there's a special reason, like a contaminated well or something like that, and it's got to go to LAFCO
Public health
to get
reason,
there,
right.
yeah. So essentially, I guess the short answer is sort of like, as long as the developer wants to spend the money and it's within that region, then you could do it.
Yes, but
Okay.
the other side of that, as I think we've talked about, is that within that bubble that is the Hollister wastewater treatment area, there are pipes that are adequate and there are pipes that are inadequate. And so if I'm out here developing something and I want to hook up to the treatment plant over here, we have to figure out if the actual pipes will allow that. In some cases, they will not, and so I have to build that entire pipeline, or someone has to build it on my behalf. So,
Okay. So can we require that?
availability-
Okay, so
Oh,
let's take, for instance, Anderson. Okay, just for instance.
Yep.
So they start building, and we find that they don't have adequate lines down Sunny Slope. I assume it either goes down Hillcrest or Sunny Slope, one of the two.
I don't know where it runs.
So let's say the lines are inadequate because they were only built for the old Anderson and Sunny Slope Village across the road. Well, they're going to impact it. It's because of them and that added increase that the lines are going to be overburdened.
Right.
Do you now say, okay, since you guys are creating the problem, do you fix the lines or pay for the lines for the city to fix, or can we do that legally?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good information.
Well, yeah, but there's two other parts to that. First, at Anderson or at Santana Ranch, there's at least 3 developers, and 2 of them are hurrying really fast to build their homes, and the third one is sort of lagging behind, and they're going to get stuck with the bill for upgrading that sewer line because,
And why are they going to get stuck? You're talking about Legacy, or is there someone else in there?
well, it's the Gueras.
Okay.
I don't know.
So why are they going to? Why is the last one done going to get stuck? How come you're not taking all the
Because-
money and just putting it in a pile from the 3 different groups?
Because the Santana Ranch Development Agreement didn't specify that the lines downstream had to be upgraded. So this was an instance where it didn't become an issue. We didn't realize it until after the deal was already done. One. Two, to go back to the south side example, there are a whole bunch of individual developers in there, and each of them will likely impact the need for upgraded sewage lines or a pumping station.
Pumping stations.
And I don't want to go in and do a 2-inch increment and then another 2-inch increment and another 2-inch. So we're going to try and figure out what the overall use is and have those developers pay into a benefit assessment district of some kind so that we do that valve, that pumping station one time.
And that sounds like what we should have been doing all along if we hadn't.
It's what most of the world does.
Okay.
So, economic development.
CRs.
CRs. My recollection is that there are 4. I can't place them on the map for you. But
129 and 101.
Right. Meadowbell Road.
Bettable Road, then the overpass over at Rocks by the Red Barn.
Red Barn.
But I don't know about the 4th one. San Juan said no.
Right. And I can't remember where the 4th one was. We took one out and we put one in, and I'd have to go back to the map.
Okay, it must be further up by like Sargent's or something.
Could be.
Yeah, because the big project had a street that was going to come in over there. The old Rancho San Benito project was going to run along and going to come out to a cloverleaf by Sargent's, so maybe we put it over there.
That could be it. I don't recall.
Okay.
In any event, we're trying now to figure out what CR wants to be, just like the RM. And we're thinking that there will be 4 different ones because of the different characteristics of those interchanges. These are it's clear from I wasn't a part of the conversation, so I'm reading only what I see in the general plan and taking that as guidance and the general plan backup documents. But it's clear to me that the CR zone and those 4 nodes were for 2 purposes. They were to create jobs and economic development, tax revenues to the county, and they were also to act as a gateway to get people off the highway and get them to come into the county and do other things. So we're looking at how we can create that magnetism at each of those 4 locations. And there was also a thematic thing, farm, wine trails. I don't remember what the other suggestions were, but there were different suggestions for architectural themes and so on. So we're trying to align both the economic side, the how do you do a gas station, convenience store, hotel, retail, whatever it is, with the tourism side, maybe a wine tasting room or a hospitality center of some kind, so that there's a hook that brings people into the county. And again, we think that there's 4 different
but you kind of lost that
ways to bake that
you
cake.
lost that when you lost the 156 at 101, which would have been the perfect gateway.
Yes, sir. The gateway's been there for 70 years, 63 that I know of. So, yeah. But
you do have an area over by Rocks that's got that bench along the hillside that could be open to all types of TOTs.
Yeah.
And
keep in mind that the bubbles in the general plan map are just that. They're bubbles. There's no lot lines. There's no topography. It's just there's a blob on a map. And so there's some flexibility. We've already talked with 2, 3, at least
3 that I know of.
3 developers that we know of who are interested in doing something at a couple of different locations. I don't want to have a 7-Eleven and a gas station be the gateway to our community. So we're going to raise the standard a bit and press them for something more.
architectural.
We're thinking that that we'll develop a specific plan for each of the big S, big P, for each of these 4 locations, in concert with the development community if they come to us, and that then within that, there will be a, what do we call a general development plan?
Yes.
A general development plan. So if you came with a Cabela's, just pick one, for example, you would show us in your development plan, general development plan, how that meets with the specific plan requirements and sort of your business plan, your operational plan for the long-term longevity, how long the business will last.
Yeah.
You get my meaning. So we don't want something to come in and 2 years later there's a vacant storefront there because it didn't pan out. Show us your business plan. Show us your business model kind of stuff. Because it can be a big investment, both on the developer side and on the county side, to get this done. It may include interchange improvements, certainly will include roadway improvements, water and sewer, lighting, all kinds of stuff. And we need to do it right.
So, big S, big P.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we modified the C zonings in the county intentionally to expedite these businesses coming in before we did this general plan. And, with the specific plan in play, do you have a ramped-up specific plan that won't take 2 or 3 years to implement? Do you have something like that? Is that possible?
Not yet, but we will. We can.
Okay.
Now, let me
if they come
respond.
in and they start talking, they see some light at the end of the tunnel, and they're more ready to get engaged and actually do something?
Yeah, but let me respond by turning it back. These interchanges have been there since Highway 1 was 101 was realigned, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and there's been no development pressure. So the only development pressure that we're creating is us doing it by putting this zoning there, and we're enabling.
Exactly, we're enabling. But they didn't have that before because 129, actually, they tried to go in and do something with something in that area that was going to be a hotel and gas station and some other stuff. And because of the zoning and rezoning and all that stuff, it was just too hard. They just didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel, and they had water issues and other things, and they just went away.
Yeah.
So
let's
engage and enable them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you that it'll be easy and that it will be a 6 month come in with your application and your specific plan is approved kind of thing. It's just not going to happen.
No.
Economic development is very, very difficult, but I do think that we owe it to the community to make sure that these are successful, and so we're going to do some thinking about that. We're going to involve you in the thinking about that over the next several months. We've begun.
Sounds good.
What else? Environmental. We talked about some issues with the general plan and the findings in the general plan. I guess I won't go into detail about that tonight. We can flesh that out later. We talked about giant kangaroo rats and Pinoche solar.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Right. And
maybe we should tell them.
Oh, it's fun. So when the Pinoche Solar project was being designed, we were in the middle of a drought, and there weren't very many giant kangaroo rats. So they did an inventory and an incidental take permit, ITP, based on a very small number of rats that they expected to find on the project site. Fast forward to 2015, 2016, we had a really nice, normal, wet year, and giant kangaroo rats proliferated, as they do, when there's a lot of food around, and so they've trapped many, many more than they expected to trap. And they're almost up to, they've trapped about 2/3 of their allowed take under the incidental take permit. However, they've only looked at less than 25% of the land that they want to develop. So they're allowed to trap 435. It looks from my calculations as if there's about 1,600 that they might find on the site as they do their work. So they need to modify their ITP, their permit. Okay, except that the federal government has been sued over their ITP, and so they're not likely to want to revise the permit. No one's quite figured out what to do with that yet.
But it holds up the project.
Element 11. It will likely slow the project at some point. We also have some issues regarding, with that one, it's not a general plan issue, but regarding road and bridge capacity and stuff. So there are some other issues that we need to deal with down there. There was another environmental issue. I can't remember what it was. Gosh. And the fourth one was, remind me.
I'm trying to remember, too. Yeah.
It's late.
So let's jump to what's over the horizon.
Sure.
We've got some things that we need to work on to implement.
A long list.
Okay. So the low-hanging fruit or the huge, important items, what would they be?
Well, thank you very much for moving forward the housing ordinance. As you recall, that was affordable housing was voted the top choice in terms of priority by both you and the Board of Supervisors back in the spring. We are working right now on revising the CEQA guidelines so that we can streamline that process, bring it up to standard, and streamline that process to the fullest extent we can, recognizing that there's a lot of CEQA out there in state government land. We are also working on a variety of infrastructure items, capital programs, and street development guidelines. We're trying to shrink the size of streets. And this goes back to the south side, for example, where we want to not build a four-lane divided highway on South Side Road down past the county yard. We want to create a smaller roadway cross-section that still serves the same amount of traffic, but allows for bike and pedestrian trails within the roadway, so that we can get that active transportation loop that we talked about, that Gary talked about in his presentation. We think that we can do that, but we need to go through a variety of ordinance changes and other stuff to make that happen. So we're bringing some talent to bear on that. I mentioned the RFP for the Nexus study.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're really excited about that and think it will be a big help. We're moving forward with the City of Hollister on the tax sharing agreement. The economic report about that is probably going to be ready in draft form in the next 30 or 45 days, and we will share that with you as well as with the board. What else? What am I forgetting?
I think you're doing great.
My mind is blank. There's a lot of stuff, but pick a topic, any topic, and we're moving forward at some pace on that. Keep in mind that the general plan will never be implemented. It will never be done.
It's dynamic.
It's dynamic. It sets out a 5, 10, 20-year work program for us collectively. And as we move forward and knock things off that list, other things will come up. Oh, habitat conservation. This relates back to Panoche Solar and to Del Webb and to a variety of other projects. Back in 2010, I guess it must have been the board, advanced a feasibility study for a habitat conservation plan, which is a designation for retirement homes for kangaroo rats, in very simplest terms. Open space that's set aside forever and ever. For some reason, I think because of cost, in 2010 it was set aside. It was just put on the shelf as we're mothballing this. Almost immediately after that, California Department of Fish and Wildlife started to kick up dust about our environmental efforts around habitat and conservation efforts. I know that the Panoche Bridge on Panoche Road got entangled at that time. I believe that the Panoche Valley Solar project had to go through extra hurdles. There was actually a person who came out of retirement to raise some hell about the conservation plan for the Pinoch Solar. Came out of Fish and Wildlife, out of retirement. But we managed to get through that project. Well, I don't think we got so lucky on the Del Webb project. They figured out another strategy, and they simply upped the cost of doing business to $1 million an acre for a private set aside for the habitat on that property. That was the factor that made Del Webb, the Pulte Group, go away. This made them walk from the project. San Juan Oaks, to their credit, is advancing on that. They have the money, and they're going to actually go ahead and do the HCP. But that particular aspect of the project came straight out of Fish and Wildlife, and we believe that it was directly related to the lack of a county-wide HCP.
That's right.
So we're going back to look at that 2010 work and figure out, now that we have some large players coming in, the Del Webbs, the Pinoch Solars, and so on, that can support that monetarily, we're going back to look at how we can put a habitat conservation plan in place, actually buy some land and set it aside, and hopefully within a generation get off the bad list at Fish and Wildlife. This was also an issue at Santana Ranch and the places along Fairview Road where there's still not an HCP in place.
Brent, didn't that start out, though? The county needed that for the John Smith site.
Yep.
And that's how it all started out, and then there was there was even to the point of negotiation with the property owner, but it just all fell apart.
Right. That's right.
Then it is what I'm thinking.
Yes.
Yeah. And it got that
It's not
close,
easy
and it
by any means.
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
So, okay, one other thing.
Sir.
Sewer. Okay, we were talking about this too.
Oh, out on the west side?
Yeah, because over on the west side, since they're running the sewer line along San Juan Road out to the Del Webb,
Right.
which it's not there, but it's in the plan line and everything.
Right.
Now those can take on, again, it's, depends on the infrastructure, on what the density levels can
It's
be.
growth inducing.
So is LAFCO going to force high density on the county if we go in and do any projects in those areas? I know somebody was out there talking about doing 1 acre, and somebody came to me and said, no, that they were going to be forced to do higher densities than 1 acre.
No. Well, half a step back. Del Webb was required to connect to the wastewater treatment plant. They have to do that through a force main. They have to pump the sewage water over the hump and get it into the wastewater treatment plant. The Regional Water Quality Board has said, and I haven't seen paper on this, but has said that that force main has to be available to other property owners along its route. That septic systems are no longer suitable there because there's a force main that's going to be available. So we have two development proposals already, very, very preliminary designs that want to take advantage of that connection. They have in the past come to us with septic system
Scenarios.
Yeah, for very minimal 5 acre and lighter development. I don't know the exact rationale for the one that wants to move from 5 acres to 1 acre lots and have a remainder lot for the other part of the property. But it's clear that there's one, development pressure because of this force main that's now there, and two, that there's a thinking that development should be clustered in some way to reduce infrastructure costs and
Well, provide open space too. I mean, we've done clusters in the county for a while.
which is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
The difficulty that we have is that our hillside grading ordinance is not very strong. And we could end up with a whole series of just terraced hills with single-family homes across them. I don't think that's what we want there for the gateway of our community, gateway to Hollister. So we're going to look at a bit more stringent hillside grading ordinance, and we will again bring that to you. We have just started on that look this week, so we don't have any ideas yet. But something more respectful of the hillside topography.
One of those CR areas actually was right there at where 4th hits 156. Just as you're coming out, that would be a good gateway area. But that's county. Is it city? Is that a city? Is the state have a business loop or any kind of control coming in off of the 156? Not anymore, right? That's not state jurisdiction. No?
Well, 156 is.
Well, it go from 156 till you hit what? The sewer streets. What is that, San Juan Road?
Yeah.
So that is within the county's jurisdiction, not the state's, right? It used to be Old State Highway, but then they did the bypass.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's still county. Okay,
I
one of
so.
those CRs was right in that area there. Maybe that's where the 4th one is.
Could be, yeah.
And maybe at Mitchell and 156 was another CR. Okay.
That sounds right.
Okay.
I have to look at the map, but I think that sounds right.
Okay. So that would be a gateway. And I would think that one of the first things you'd want to do if you were going to make that a gateway is go plant trees around the sewer ponds. It's just a suggestion. But, so they're not going to be required, the force main, they're not going to be required to hook up and go higher density unless...
They'll be required to hook up.
Okay.
What they build is up to them.
Okay. I just didn't want to see,
Apartments lining the hills? No.
Yeah, a ton of houses in there and another Anderson or Sunnyslope Village or something out over in this area that doesn't...
I should also mention that this is a part of the new community study areas that are in the general plan. So it is one of those areas that the general plan requires a specific plan before development there.
Okay.
So we're trying to, frankly, we're struggling right now trying to figure out how 2 10-parcel developments are going to pay for a specific plan. That doesn't make any sense. So we'll have to figure that out. But it's clear that we have to work on that because there is going to be development pressure there.
So how do you work that out? I mean, we're getting kind of long here, but how do you work that out when you have a little project, you got a big specific plan area, and you only got one little project that's going to go in there?
Well, what I suggested
This will come up later, I'm sure,
No doubt, many times. What I suggested to the owners that I talked with was that they take a note from the South Side model where the property owners got together with some planning leadership, not by us, and sort of figure out what they wanted to do. Whether that can happen here, and particularly whether that can happen with 2 very small owners sort of spearheading that is an open question. But that would be, I think, an excellent model. And maybe we'll see how the South Side area plays out, and it won't be a model. But so far, I think it's a really good model for other places to look at.
And then how do we deal with the small, like these splits we had tonight? Okay. So you have 4 or 5 houses. It's one family. There's just splitting things among themselves, but they're still in a specific plan area. How do we deal with that?
We might set an exemption for very small stuff.
Okay. That sounds reasonable, yeah.
That's just, off the top of my head. But
yeah.
I think there would have to be a series of if this and this and this kind of things.
Then this may occur. Okay. So who works on the HDP?
She better get up and defend herself now.
First thing you need to tell her is to come out here where we can see her.
She's in back.
Hiding back there.
She's in back crying here.
So, okay, and then that is brought to us.
I'm sure it'll be a team
brought
effort.
to the supervisors, or what level does that go to?
Oh my gosh, I anticipate that there will be a wide array of folks involved in
because
this.
it's CEQA, it's got to come to us, but then it goes on actually to the
It's a planning document. It absolutely should come to the commission.
Okay. Well, just kind of trying to figure out what we got coming at us. in the
It's
next
sort of an
6
unplanning document. We're going to set aside, hillsides and stuff, remote valleys for habitat. But
Any questions?
sorry, I sort of rambled. I thought I had my presentation.
Okay, next time we'll make an agenda for you.
Okay.
I do have one.
Sure.
We're talking about this secondary units from the grand units.
Mhm.
Eliminate the grand unit and just make it a unit. And, go up to 1,200 square feet. We're having housing problems.
Yeah.
People want to, if they meet the criteria, so they can build a secondary unit in their property to ease the pain of the housing.
Sure.
And then, maybe they can, one of the conditions, I know that sometimes you want garages in them. They can have the option of garage or carport. Keep the cost down.
Yeah.
Because there's, let's be frank here. I mean, all the secondary units are illegal.
Yes, they
Just make
are.
them legal.
Yep.
The grand units, they say they're going to have their family member in there or their grandma, suppose that's what. They don't. Just go back and eliminate them, make them legal, and rent to anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, someone wants some
It's-
stranger living next to them.
It's virtually impossible to enforce.
Exactly.
The issues that are more important, well, there's a social equity issue, but the issues that are more important from, I think, the county's fiduciary perspective are the life safety issues, whether there are code violations, the density and overcrowding, overuse of infrastructure, for example, the sewage system and water availability and those kinds of things, the public health issues and that. It's not a strategy that's suitable on every lot, certainly, but again, it might be something that we could do if these 4 or these 7 criteria align. Right.
Because I know there's a lot of illegal units on everybody's property. You just got to look.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
They're not pulling permits. They're building secondary units.
Yeah, well,
Maybe this way, if you make it legal, they can have a secondary unit. They'll go out and get a permit. Maybe.
Yeah. The counter side to that, and I'm not arguing against it, but the counter side to that is that we are a bedroom community for Silicon Valley. And I wouldn't want to exacerbate that condition. I would like to improve our jobs housing balance through an emphasis on commercial development and industrial development and creating opportunities, home businesses even, so that we have shorter commutes and put more people to work here.
Well, I can argue with that because we're not going to get that accomplished until we fix the roads.
No, you're right.
We're not going to get the business into San Benito County. We're 15 miles off the grid.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You go to Salinas a lot faster than you come to Hollister.
Yep. Absolutely.
So we need to
So we
wind
need
up.
those CRs to suck people in.
I think the county should start pushing the state to get Highway 25 improved and start moving stuff a lot faster. I mean, I don't like going out of town to work, but we have to.
Mm-hmm.
Coming back into Hollister's a nightmare. I think,
No argument from me.
yeah. Until we correct that problem, our streets, not going to be no business coming in here. If I had a business San Jose, why am I going to Hollister when I'm going to spend an hour getting in here, an hour to get out? When I can just go to along the highway and drop something off and back.
Yeah. We're getting into an infrastructure conversation, which is absolutely a part of general plan implementation. Our collective infrastructure is not in very good shape. Our roads, a lot of our sewage treatment stuff, our water supply is questionable in some cases. there are a lot of limitations on that, and we have to tackle all of them. It will be a very slow, bad pun, very slow road to get there. It all costs a lot of money, and we need to, as a county, prioritize where we want to put that money and where we get the biggest bang for our buck. I'm bringing to the board next week a presentation on roadway condition, existing roadway condition in the county. It's not pretty. I will bring that same presentation to the commission if you like. But I'd like to do it as a part of a broader conversation about infrastructure.
Yeah, but this has been a problem for the last 40 years.
Yeah,
I've been here
absolutely.
40 years, or more than that. It's been the
And
same problem. We're working on it. You need to get the county officials like your guys and supervisors to light a fire under someone. And step it up.
State jurisdiction's got a little play there. Well, that's the problem.
There is that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of orchards, but there's not much money growing on those trees.
Okay, so taking Robert's question, okay, and Pat's brought it up before. So if we were going to go in and change the ordinance to legalize the granny units to where they could go to non-restrictions and allow other, what I'm hearing is you say we need to really be working on CRs more than we need to be working on that. Is that what you're saying? Or did I mess it up?
No, you're right. I'm not saying that we don't need, let me put it this way. I think there would be a huge market for smaller, more affordable units, no matter what they are. Converted garage, a second unit, a tiny house, anything that's not a 4-bedroom house of 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 square feet. That's what sells here. So what you're getting to when you convert a single unit is a sort of mom and pop developer game. That worries me a little bit because mom and pop aren't developers typically, and so they don't have the same standards, the construction standards and so on. It becomes really difficult, even more difficult than it is now, to sort of, I hate to use the word police, but to police the outcome of that so that the units are safe and have all the proper fire access and those kinds of things. But still...
Okay, you lost me on this because I'm looking at this as part of the affordable housing element and implementation in the general plan. So that's what the discussion is, right?
Yep.
So we're okay with this. So I just want to put your...
I just know that there's a lot of public interest in this issue. So, I mean, if we want to get, you can have a little bit of leeway, but then if we want to go further and give direction to staff, we should probably put it on a future agenda.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's really where this is headed, to find out if we are going to take it that far, because he broached the question. But, see, I'm old now. You got me off track.
Me too.
Where was I going? So, mom and pop developers, I mean, are you talking about owner builders that are trying to build their own without, or encouraging people not to come in for permits or go through the entire process, which we would never do?
Of course not.
And never encourage.
No, but it happens all the time, and we know it does.
Yeah, but we're getting better about this. I think the word's getting out that.
Well, we're trying.
Okay, that we're going after people that don't have permits, and we're bringing them into compliance more than ever before, and I think that's good. It sends a signal out, says, it's better to come in to begin with instead of get caught later. Mm-hmm. And maybe we should talk about penalties on that too. But
so for example,
you and the other thing is the restricted units. I think you should say, okay, we're allowing this. You need to come in and sort of like run through the process and apply for this, and pay some inspection fees.
Right.
Go out and be inspected. Make sure we do have better, safety issues going on and stuff like that.
Right.
But no, I think we're talking about maybe somebody. And mom and pop can afford to do this, okay?
Well, so for example, my house, my wife and I, we're not builders, but we have a 3-car garage, and as we get older, perhaps we only need 1 car of that. We could convert a two-car garage, 400, 500 square feet, into a second unit.
Can we?
We have no expertise in doing that, but we go and we put a nice stud wall behind the garage door so it still looks like a garage, and we put in a range and a refrigerator.
Talking illegal stuff now.
That's illegal.
That's all illegal.
It is,
We're not
but that's
talking
what
about
happens.
doing any of that. We're talking about taking
that's what
existing things and removing restrictions so now they can be used for more affordables. See, they're coming after you now.
They come out and get a permit. I mean, they're
I
doing
just
it now.
talked about being illegal, and now they're after me.
Yeah.
You know,
So,
starting to
I
make it
mean,
legal.
that's kind of what we're talking here. Permitted, but the
Sure.
thing is you don't have the restrictions they had before that said you had to have a letter that said they were related and things like that to help relieve some of those units so they can be used either legally if they're being used illegally, but also make it easier on people that would maybe do a secondary unit with permits and everything like they're supposed to.
And to punctuate your point, again, I think that is that would be a really good way, an easy way to get a whole array of smaller, more affordable units into the market here that we don't have now.
Yeah, and it would be conforming to the county. It's like Pat was saying all along. This is what the county looks like. This is what it should look like. It shouldn't be high density, somewhere, RM, a mass of people. It should be, affordable. County housing should be affordable, and maybe some secondary units that maybe were used by groups before, but now they've sold, and somebody could rent one out legally or things like that. They just open up some. It's not going to open up a lot, but it might open up some.
If we do this and this and this and this and this, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And not garages. Okay.
No, I was being semi-facetious.
Chandel
We
will get
a
very
lot
mad
of-
at you for that.
I'm sorry?
Chandel will be very mad at you for that. So
She'll-
don't convert your garage.
I'll hear about it tomorrow. But we get a lot of that kind of thing that goes on, garages and sheds and just stuff. RVs, basements, people excavate under their house, take out all the support, and put a unit in there. I mean, it happens. It's just wacky.
I'm glad we don't know about that stuff.
Right.
It's
I'm
okay.
not telling you
So,
about this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your participation. So, no other reports anywhere. Louis, you can get a no. You could if you want. Mike, it's all good. It's all done. Okay, then I'm open for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
8:27.